Maurice the frog and Theo the toad shared a lily pad together at the edge of the pond. They were reasonably happy with that arrangement. They would chase flies and generally got along even though they were different species. Now, they were both in love with Eleanor, who was the most beautiful frog for a lady frog that you could imagine. She had a great pair of legs. And so Maurice would say things like, gosh, when spring comes around, I'd really love to get into that vernal pool and fertilize her egg sacs. To which Theo would look over sideways and get very annoyed because he also was in love with Eleanor and wished he could have her for himself. So Theo actually hopped off the lily pad and went to visit Eleanor on the sly to tell her about his love for her. To which Eleanor looked rather puzzled and retorted, "You're not even the same species. What are you even thinking? Go find someone who's more fit for you." That really annoyed Theodore. And when Maurice was once again waxing eloquent about how he'd like to get together with Eleanor in the spring, he decided he finally had enough. And after Maurice fell asleep that night, Theo crawled underneath the lily pad, chewed away at the little stem till he managed to get it most of the way through, and then climbed back up onto the pad and, with a little hop, managed to push it out and snap it off of the stem, and they both drifted into the night together into the center of the pond. When Maurice awoke the next morning, he was distraught. He saw that the shoreline was far, far away, and they were out right in the middle of the pond. And so when he awoke, he panicked, and he basically was saying to Theo, like, what are we supposed to do now? We're stuck out here in the middle of the pond, and we can't get back to shore. And Theo just looked at him like, well, that's not my problem now, is it? Because Theo had it. Well, Maurice then remembered that he's a frog. So unlike those land amphibians, the toads, he'd be able to swim right to shore and just find another lily pad and be on his merry way. So that's what he did. He jumped into the lake and began to swim. And he got about 6 kicks in when Theo saw that a snapper, great big snapping turtle, came up from underneath the water and grabbed Maurice, and in one fell chomp, he was all gone except for a couple of toes. Theo looked on with mixed feelings and stewed to himself about how if he couldn't have Eleanor, then nobody would. And that's where he still is this day, floating on a lily pad in the center of the pond.